All right, welcome back to Wakesurfology. This is episode 12. I'm Jake Breedlove, and this is my co-host Dylan Ayala. Today, we're just going to talk some more things about wake surfing. Some of what we'll get into will be kind of about like skill transfer, like different things that we do in off season or when we aren't wake surfing, kind of like, you know, our off training. Not off training. What is it called again?
Like cross training?
Cross training.
Yeah, different things that you can help with your wake surfing. But yeah, we've been wake surfing a good amount. It's middle of summer. Summer's almost coming to an end, so we've been riding as much as we can. What do you think about summer compared to winter? After our last winter where we were riding so much, I had so much fun this last winter.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really do love, you know, kind of having to deal with the cold a little bit. You know, obviously there are some times when we're just like, you know, frustrated with it and it is too cold maybe sometimes. But ultimately it's really fun and it kind of pushes us to try new tricks and learn new stuff, which we don't always do throughout the whole year. But
yeah, something that was really nice about this last winter too is it was cold and then it got really cold for like 2 weeks and then it somehow warmed up. Like the water got warmer, like in the middle of winter, and it became not unbearable. Like for a week or two, it was super cold, and like it took a good 15, 20 minutes to get warmed up, and then it almost kind of like warmed up. And I don't know, I really like riding in winter. It reminds me of when I first started and just like not really caring about the cold. I feel like this last winter was just super enjoyable, and it was so fun to be riding so much.
yeah, it was really cool, really fun. It's always nice to kind of have the lake to yourself.
Yeah.
Not have any boats out. The only thing you got to deal with sometimes is the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember some windy days that we had, but still a great time, really good practice. And also, too, like I remember it was so funny that I feel like one day would be like super cold.
Yeah.
And I feel like those were the days that weren't overcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then the days that were like a little more like bearable were the days when it was overcast and it was like super cold day, warm day, super cold day, warm day.
Yeah.
It was just like back and forth, but it was a blast. We learned a lot. We're riding pretty good with our switch riding now.
Yeah, we did practice a lot of switch this last winter, and it's just fun to ride with somebody else too. I haven't rode with somebody in a good amount of time that's also at a higher level, so it's so fun to ride with each other and push each other.
Yes, sir. Two pros pushing each other to be better pros.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we want to talk a little more about like some cross training stuff, just like other things that we do that we enjoy doing. That isn't like just solely to learn and get better at wake surfing with, but just to have fun. A lot of different things. I know last week we talked about like foiling.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a new thing. People are figuring it out, and we're trying to learn how to do it. And it's a different feeling, but a lot of the like skills that you learn with that can transfer over to wake surfing and really help you improve.
Yeah, specifically with foiling, I feel like the pumping helps a lot. I don't know which would carry over better, foiling to wake surfing or wake surfing to foiling, but I feel like we kind of picked up on the pumping pretty quickly.
Yeah, the pumping, like with the foil, at least what we're trying to do now, like you got to learn how to get up first and figure out that foil and stuff. But like the big thing for foilers is to, you know, pump out away from the boat in open waters and then try to come back and get back in your wave. And so you really do have to pump a lot.
Yeah.
And like there's no getting around it at all. You just got to do it, and it's a huge workout. So I'm sure that like, I don't know, it just helps a ton. It's a really good workout with your legs, and it's a lot harder on the foil, like compared to pumping behind the boat for wake surfing.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that could definitely help with pumping a ton.
Yeah, it definitely does. And another thing that I was thinking about too, like as I was foiling, is how out of breath I was from the foil. And yeah, I think that that's something that really would help our cardio because, I mean, the first 15 minutes of our surfing were usually super like powerful and not getting worn out at all. But then like towards the end of our session, we're obviously getting more tired and just kind of getting more run down. So I think that if you were to foil more and really work on that cardio aspect, that your wake surfing would improve from doing that.
Yeah, one thing that like would really help for sure is like just strengthening your legs.
Mm-hmm.
Because not a lot of people have perfected their pumping for wake surfing behind the boat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can be very, very tricky trying to get that, perfect, so that you can do all the tricks you're trying to do and stuff. But it really works your legs out. So a little extra, I don't know, a little boost when you're pumping behind the boat for wake surfing, like compared to foiling, it's not going to be as hard. So
Yeah.
it'll just be easier.
Yeah, and I think ideally for wake surfing or whatever your sport is, like as much as you can do to not be getting tired from wake surfing or whatever you're trying to improve in is going to just help your sessions be that much better because you're not getting tired while you're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like foiling really would help with that.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to practice for like a competition. A lot of times, I mean, depending on the person, like some people rush themselves, some people take their time, but either way, you're in a competition setting and you're trying to, get a bunch of tricks out and you're trying to land them all. So you are working a little harder than you might as when you're just having fun or practicing.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like you said, like it'll help with the cardio and kind of keep you going so you don't get gassed out or something in the middle of a competition.
Yeah, and even like during your sessions when you're not competing, like obviously you're not going to get as tired in the competition as you are at the end of your session when you're just practicing. But if you can keep that cardio up while you're practicing for wake surfing, then that would give you more opportunities to ride better during your practice,
Yeah. Yeah, more cardio is good and it helps you just get good endurance, longevity with your riding. So
Yeah. And something that I think that you do really well in competitions is like you're talking about taking your time and some people rush is I notice that you really take your time and get all of your tricks in. And I don't know if that's something that you've worked on over the years that's came with time, but you do that. Like one of the best attributes of your competition riding is you take your time and really get all of your tricks in. And I don't know if that came from over time or something that was always there for you.
yeah, it definitely was something that I feel like I have gotten better at more recently. We've been doing this for so long, and there's ups and downs with the fun riding, the practice riding, the competitive riding, and I feel like it wasn't until this year I feel the most comfortable I felt to where I can kind of take my time and not have to rush or overthink, and that feels really good to be able to do that now. I remember in the past I would rush myself thinking I just had to dump a bunch of tricks out to kind of compete against these other riders. And a lot of times I would fall too soon or I would just have really terrible execution.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I don't know, kind of spazzing out on the wave, trying to catch myself or different things like that. But it definitely has been something that I've worked on for a long time. And I think a lot of different factors like practicing a lot has built up confidence and knowing that I can do tricks and stuff, and knowing that I don't have to rush when I'm out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that I could definitely work on is sometimes I feel like I really rush everything and like like you said, trying to get as many tricks as I can in a certain amount of time. And then I end up falling because I'm not taking my time. So I end up not getting as many tricks anyway. So just like taking a step back and really slowing it down, I think is something that I've been focusing on lately, but also that I still need to work on.
Yeah, and we have a different kind of riding style than some other riders. Like there are other riders that are able to pack a lot of tricks, a lot of combos and stuff like that into their runs. And not that they don't go big at all. A lot of them still do go big, but going big is kind of like our main focus a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that kind of goes into play with how we ride, how we approach our tricks, and how many tricks we're trying to get, because we're just trying to go for different kinds of points than some of these other riders might be.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a good thing to focus on is like better execution is almost better than less execution and falling on tricks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so too. One thing that I think about that I feel like is really important too, and a lot of people might not think so or might overlook it, are like the muscles like in your feet and like in your shins and stuff. I don't know. I feel like over the last year or so, I've kind of noticed, like a lot of people ask me, like, how do you jump so high? Like, how do you get such big air? And of course, I've practiced a lot and tried different ways of doing it. But I also grew up like jumping on the trampoline and doing like the skateboard, or even just like riding a bike.
Yeah.
Like specifically a bike with no gears. So I had to work a little harder for it, or when I was pedaling and stuff. So I don't know. I feel like throughout my life, like I've really worked like my feet muscles.
Yeah.
It sounds like so like it's not a big deal or whatever, but I feel like it has really helped me with like my pumping and stuff. Like, I don't know. Tell me how you feel about this. Like whenever you're pumping sometimes and you accidentally pump too high up on the wave, but your body is kind of leaning into the wave a little bit too.
Yeah.
Like sometimes if you don't have enough strength or like pressure on the toe side edge of the board, I feel like you can like slip on the wave. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I get what you're saying. And like whenever your feet are like, that's what's connecting you to your board. And it's almost like it's like gripping it, like holding on to the board. And you don't really think about that. Like you're saying, like you don't think about how much your feet play into it. And like I think there's different ways to strengthen it. But like even when I was foiling the other day, that was like my legs obviously got super tired too, and also I was breathing super hard. But like I really felt it on my feet. Like my feet were cramping up almost. And yeah, I think that feet strength and like strengthening your feet to stay with your board is super important.
Yeah, I a lot of times see like when I'm coaching someone for a lesson, sometimes their foot, like maybe it's not centered in the board, but like, let me say that again. So their front foot, a lot of times, it might not be like close enough to the toe side edge. It might be like too close to the heel side edge. And so like I noticed that their foot is like gripping really hard because they're trying to like put more weight on their toes.
Yeah.
Because whenever they come down the wave, like since their foot isn't close enough to the toe side rail, that foot's like having to work a lot harder. And so I feel like that just like shows like how much the feet are like really trying to work when we're surfing, even if their foot is still in the right spot.
Yeah.
Their toes are like really trying to like put pressure down on that rail so that they can stay in the wave or get back in the wave if they accidentally cut out or something.
Yeah. What do you think the solution to that would be? Just like focusing on scooting their foot over, or?
I mean, yeah, in that situation, I think just moving their foot closer to the toe side rail, like even like, I feel like having your foot centered over the board sometimes isn't even enough for some people.
Yeah.
Or even sometimes I'll just inch my foot a little closer to the toe side rail for, I don't know what trick, but I do notice that I do that sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually ride with my front foot closer to the toe side edge as well. I think it just makes it easier to like really drive into the wave and create that speed, like you're saying. But yeah, scooting that front foot over will help you gain speed, and also I feel like it's just better in a big way.
Yeah, you get more weight on the toe side rail, which gets the board kind of locked into the waves. Because the wave's trying to push you away.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Like, the wave is trying to push you away, so you have to counteract that. And if you're not counteracting that enough, you're just going to get pushed away.
Something else that I feel like has really helped me in the past, kind of set me up for, some of my capabilities with wake surfing, I feel like was wakeboarding, and then also like skateboarding. Those two things have really helped me learn to like ollie and also air.
Yeah.
Like for the skateboard, there's a very specific way to do an ollie. You have your feet placed, with your back foot on the tail and your front foot kind of in the middle of the board, and then you pop the nose really high, jump off the back foot, and slide your front foot up the board.
Yeah.
And on the surfboard, like you don't necessarily like slide your foot up the board. But what you're doing there is like leveling it out. And so we do kind of do that sometimes when we do airs. We push that front foot forward into the board so it lifts the tail up high.
Yeah.
So yeah, learning an ollie on a skateboard has like really helped me because I also think it's like more difficult on a skateboard.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very difficult and it can hurt. So like if you can figure out how to even get close to doing it on a skateboard, then I feel like it would really help. And then I was just gonna say too, with like the wakeboarding, it's kind of similar. Like I learned to ollie on a skateboard first, which was really hard. And then since I understood that kind of motion, when I went out on a wakeboard and I would cut out in the flats, especially if I was going a little faster, I could kind of do that movement and get really good pop. And just over time, practicing that and popping the board on the surface of the water really helped. And then later down the road, when I got to wake surfing, all of that just like it made sense and it clicked and it was like second nature.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, with like skateboarding and the ollies on skateboarding, it's so challenging to like the timing of it, specifically on like the ollie on skateboards. Like the timing is so much harder than on wake surfing, where it's like with wake surfing, all you got to do is really load that front foot and then pop. Obviously, it's challenging too, but if you could get that on the skateboard and really learn the mechanics of the ollie on a skateboard, it's going to carry over so good on the wake surfboard.
Yeah, and I think one aspect of it that's really important that a lot of people have a hard time with is like not just lifting the nose of the board to kind of start the air, but also like jumping off the back foot. Because it's kind of weird. Like you think you and the board together are both going to jump off the wave out of the water, but in reality, it's really like your back leg that's doing like the majority of the work to get you up high, like out of the water.
Yeah.
If you don't like jump off the back foot and you just lift the nose up, then that's exactly what's going to happen. The nose will come up high.
Yeah, you're just going to like slow down.
Yeah, you'll just like slow down on the top of the wave, or if you're doing an ollie, you'll just slow down out in the flats. So yeah, like learning that transition, going from like 2 feet to jumping off of 1 foot is like a really important aspect of learning the air of the ollie. And with wakeboarding and the skateboard, that it really helps with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and with the ollie too, like on wake surfing, like a lot of times I see people, they're coming down the line, they're getting ready to load for the ollie, and as they're like loading that front foot, they're like leaning back. So they're like counteracting the actual ollie.
Yeah.
So they're not getting that pop. So like they're so worried about digging the nose. Like that's something that a lot of people will say when I'm telling them how to do the ollie. They're like, isn't the nose just going to fall in the water? Like, isn't it going to dig? And I'm like, well, it's like you're only loading it for 2 seconds and then you're popping.
Yeah.
So like as they're going to load it, they're leaning back with their body. So they're not really getting that pop.
Yeah. And sometimes people forget too. Like there are times when we put weight on the front foot and, you know, with the help of weight on your toes, we put weight on the front foot to get like back on the wave and stuff. And you can even, like people do a knee down, which puts a lot of weight on the front or like the middle front part of the board. And so essentially you're kind of putting the same weight down when you go in for the ollie.
Yeah.
So you're probably not going to nosedive, so don't worry about that. But
yeah. Yeah, if you think about like if you were to transfer that over to the skateboard, if you were trying to ollie and you were just leaning completely back, there's no way to get the weight over the trucks, like the front truck, so you're not going to get the pop that you need. So like making sure that you get weight over that front foot. If you can learn it on the skateboard, you're going to get it so easily on the wake surfboard.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the skateboard I have to say is the hardest board to practice an ollie or a jump on.
Yeah. Yeah, and do you think that it helps with like we were talking about feet? Like obviously you're not barefoot when you're skateboarding, or maybe you are when you're on the tramp. Do you skateboard barefoot even not on the tramp?
I mean, if I'm just like messing around, like I'll go barefoot, and I don't know, like there are a handful of times when I'll just hop on barefoot and I'll still do an ollie or like a shove it.
Really?
And that's about all I can do. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I grew up walking around barefoot a lot, and so that was, I don't know, toughening my feet up was kind of a thing.
Yeah. So do you think that kind of say they're not wearing shoes or say they are wearing shoes? Do you think that like that still helps with your feet muscles too? Like we were talking about feet and the muscles in your feet. Do you think that still helps?
Definitely. Yeah, shoes or not, it'll help with your feet muscles a ton because your toes are having to work.
Yeah.
like when you're on a skateboard doing an ollie, you are on your toes. Like you aren't really flat footed, and you aren't on your heels whatsoever. So I think it really does help because you're kind of balancing on your toes while doing like standing on the board and while doing the ollie. So it is really working like the muscles in your toes and like the tops of your feet and stuff like that.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome.
And then one other thing that I just thought of, kind of back to like trying an ollie on the wake surfboard. Like I sometimes see people like go to do an ollie and they jump with both of their legs.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, both of their legs are straight when they try, and maybe the board altogether comes like an inch or two out of the water, but that just kind of shows like you got to transfer that weight to the back foot instead of just using both feet, because that's how you'll get the nose up, and then that's how you can jump off like the tail and back foot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because if you're just jumping like off of your board, you're not going to get any pop because you're not bringing it with you.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so obviously there's a lot of different things that you can do for like skill transfer and helping you with your wake surfing. If you could only choose one, which would you choose? Like one thing to do.
Oh man. I think for me it would be the trampoline.
Yeah.
Because like whether you're using like a skateboard deck and trying to do rotations and practice ollies and stuff, or if you're just jumping, like the whole time you're going to be working your legs, your core, and your feet, and just all of it. Yeah. And then you'll have, like we've talked about in the past, you'll have like practice time in the air.
Yeah.
And like being comfortable with like moving your body in the air and seeing, what different motions do to your spin or whatever while you're in there.
Yeah, and like with the trampoline, you can get so many reps in trying like a 3-shove in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that in the past, but yeah, I think that is a good, like if you could only do one thing, I think that is a great thing to do because you're getting so many reps in different categories too. You can build your cardio, you can build your board control, you can build like aerial awareness. There's so many different things that you could do on a trampoline.
Yeah, and for me, I'm kind of like a perfectionist. Like since I am able to just get up and try again and again and again.
Yeah.
Like it's not like when you're behind the boat, like you can't just say one more for a whole half hour or whatever when you're on the boat, just because like, I don't know, you got to go somewhere or you have limited gas, just different things to like land a trick or whatever. But like when I'm on the trampoline and I'm trying different tricks, like I won't let myself stop until I like land the one trick that I'm trying to do or something. Yeah. And so I'm like forcing myself into like a ton of cardio, and I'm always just dripping sweat after. It's pretty gross, but
yeah, I think like with the trampoline, like I think it's a great practice, and I haven't done it a whole lot, but the times that I have done it with you, it's super fun, and like you said, it's addicting too to like get that trick and land that trick. Yeah,
it's just the ease of just being able to try over and over and over and over is super awesome.
Yeah, and I've seen videos too of actual like ocean surfers at like trampoline parks or maybe like a gymnastic thing, and they have like these foam board things. They kind of look like snowboard.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, and they practice like their aerial tricks.
Yeah, so it's so sick.
Yeah.
Snowboarders and wakeboarders do that a lot too. Mm-hmm. I think it was like Mike Dowdy, the wakeboarder. I thought I saw him. It might have been someone else, but saw him like practicing like with a big trampoline and like a ski rope. Yeah. And that's like something that I used to do like just for fun, like attaching a ski rope to a tree to do like wakeboard tricks and stuff. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super I have tried that before too. It's fun, and that was back when I would wakeboard. It's kind of like you kind of learn how to like pull the rope across too, and you learn like the different what you do with the rope, and it's good practice.
Yeah, for wake surfing and wakeboarding.
Yeah,
and skateboarding,
and even surfing, ocean surfing.
Yeah, ocean surfing.
Yeah, because, I mean, you could practice different aerial tricks. You could try shove tricks. The options are pretty endless.
Mm-hmm. Or just flipping around for fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I grew up on a trampoline, too. Like, when I was little, I would spend hours on the trampoline with my friends just jumping. And I think we've mentioned it in a podcast, but I really think that helps you with your airs and like learning how to jump in a weird way. It's pretty similar to water in a way.
Yeah, I think the big deal, and I think we talked about this a long time ago in like one of our earlier podcasts, maybe like one or two, but explosive power.
Yeah.
Like the explosive power when you're pushing really hard, it's like very quick.
Yeah.
Instead of like just doing like a slow squat from the ground up, you're like jumping. And so that creates really good like strengthening in your muscles.
Yeah, and like thinking about trying to jump higher versus trying to jump just like a small jump. Like on a trampoline, you're going to have to get everything into that jump. You have to get your upper body down, and then you have to get everything back up. And it's the same for wake surfing too.
Yeah, and a lot of times when I'm jumping on the trampoline or jumping behind the boat, like I'll think about like the muscles that I'm using, and I'll try to think about like which muscles am I using more, which could I maybe use a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I notice that I'm not using like my feet enough, or like I'm not using like my quads enough.
Yeah.
And just trying to paying attention to that and using all of them together, or trying to get myself to use them all together is just really helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
So these past couple days, I've been giving some lessons to Kim, a professional female wake surfer, who's from Korea, and her son came out too. His name's Alvin. And they were explaining to me as we were out practicing how the water on my lake, it felt. I think they said that. I think they said that my lake, the water felt hard, and the water in Korea or wherever they surf felt soft.
Yeah.
And like I did not understand that at first. And Alvin did his best to explain it to me, but I still wasn't able to like fully understand what they meant by that. And so I don't know, like I think you had mentioned to me that like it maybe had something to do with like salt water or something.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, whenever I went to Asia, like South Korea or even Hong Kong, like they ride in salt water. I don't know about all of them, but the lakes that I guess it was I don't know what it was, but I was riding in salt water, so the water is like more buoyant, and the water felt softer. So like on your pumps, everything was softer. Or say you're loading for like an air, the water's soft, so you're trying to load as much as you can, but it's like not loading as much as we can on like Lake Austin or freshwater lakes because the water's harder because of the salt.
Yeah, that's so weird, like to think about. Like I can't comprehend that because I haven't ever felt it before. I've never surfed in salt water. Like at first, I thought Alvin was just telling me that my lake is harder to surf on, like it's rough or like because there were a lot of boats out on like the first 2 days we went out, but and I thought he was just saying it was easier to surf on his lake, but I haven't thought about like salt water like having effect on like the board and like how you ride. Like I have seen other riders like Jake Castor go to where is it?
Turks and Caicos.
Turks and Caicos. Super cool place, but I've just never thought about the salt water like actually affecting how you ride and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it affects it in different ways too. Like I was just saying that for airs and stuff, like fresh water is easier to load on because you can load harder on it, and it's like I don't know how to explain it, but like it's harder so you can get more pop. And then with like the salt water, whenever you go to load, it's softer, so it's like almost
there's more give.
Yeah, you're not getting as much like pop. But then on the flip side of that too, it makes it easier for rotations. Like in saltwater, it's easier for like the fins to release, at least what I've seen. It's just a lot easier for it to release. And then also I noticed like if you're losing the wave, I was having an easier time kind of pumping back in saltwater.
Okay, so what I'm getting is like obviously we know that salt water makes things more buoyant. You can float in it better, whatever. So it makes the board more buoyant on the surface. And so, like you said, it helps with rotations. So I guess being more on the surface or just being more buoyant helps things rotate easier on the surface. And then catching the wave, you just have more buoyancy. But then, yeah, it's weird to think that if you're on my lake, if you go to do an air, it's like a lot easier because, I don't know, that's just weird to think about.
Yeah, I think it just really comes down to, I mean, I guess it's like thinking about trying to jump off of something hard like cement versus something a little bit softer that has more give. Like it's going to be easier to jump off of something that's hard, you know?
Yeah. And when I think about saltwater, like it's oftentimes like kind of foamy.
Yeah.
Too,
true.
with like lots more bubbles in it and stuff, even like really small ones, like when the foam settles or when it's turned up, it just gets really foamy and stuff. So I could see that just adding a bunch of air bubbles under the board.
Yeah, that's
more
true.
push.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a different experience riding in saltwater versus freshwater. And it's interesting because they all learn how to ride on saltwater and then they come to wherever they're riding that has fresh water, and it's so much different.
Yeah, and when I'm surfing in the ocean, like that's not something that crosses my mind at all.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I can really like pick up on or notice. I mean, probably just because I haven't surfed in the ocean enough, but it's something that you don't think about.
Yeah, for sure. So, like different places have, you know, different water, like salt water, fresh water, and then like also coming from Arizona, like I had to trailer my boat in the beginning, like we'd be trailering, and then from there we got to slip on the lake. There's just like a bunch of different ways that people have access to the lake.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing for everybody. There's so many different like ways to get out there, but you're kind of limited just based on what you have access to and stuff. Like for me, I grew up on the lake, so I was like super lucky to be able to have the boat right on the water, like in a dock with like a cable lift. So that was really nice. But a lot of people have to trailer their boat, you know, every time that they go out there.
Yeah.
Or even like some people can get lucky too and like find a slip on the lake to share with like someone else, because there's marinas a lot of times. People use marinas a lot. Some of them on my lake, they're all docks because we're able to build docks in the water and stuff.
Yeah.
And then other lakes have like the floating docks.
Yeah.
Which is like a very different setup. Like I know at Arizona where we do one of our competitions, it's like a big like little deal of floating docks all connected, even like a floating restaurant and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
But
yeah, kind of like Lake Travis. But like the marina that I was at in Arizona was kind of a smaller one. It was at Lake Saguaro, and most of the boats didn't even have lifts. So like I didn't even have my boat on a lift.
It was just floating?
It was just in the water, yeah.
Tied up?
In a slip, tied up. Yeah, and that's super hard on the boat, like being in the water all the time. It gets super dirty. But yeah, it's interesting, all the different things. Like if you're having to trailer too, you're not only having to trailer it every time, but you also have to find a place to store it, like the trailer and the boat. So like each time you go out, it adds so much more to the experience too. Like you have to do all these things just to go out.
Yeah, and it's so funny. Like there are so many little things that you got to deal with and remember, and like just got to make sure things are in place when you do it. Like one big thing is the plug.
Yeah.
Always got to make sure the plug is in before you drop the boat in the water. But yeah, it's just different for everybody. And then one thing that I'm sure is like a pain, and I don't know how many people actually do this, but like whenever you take your boat out of the lake, like if you have to trailer your boat, you always have to like drain all the water out and stuff, and like clean your boat. Yeah. And like I personally haven't seen people clean their boat and stuff, but it's like draining the water and cleaning it is for like the different mussels and different like I guess other
like invasive
species that could like transfer from one lake to another. Like when you're staying on one lake all the time, you don't really have to worry about that, but other people that trailer their boats have to worry about transferring like the zebra mussels and stuff.
Yeah, it's just so many different things, like you're saying, that you have to think about and make sure that you do. But then even thinking about like people in Asia, like when I would go there to coach, they don't have like they don't have their own boats, because I think what they told me, like, they don't have enough space or like storage. So like there's schools that you go to in Asia, like you go to a wake surf school that will teach you, because people can't really have their own boats there because there's not enough storage.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that actually sounds kind of cool in a way, because they have like somewhat of a community that they have.
True, yeah. It's like a team.
Like a team, like a big team or a club. So they have like a really cool like family vibe going there.
Yeah.
Like they don't necessarily have their own boat, so they can't go out every time they want to, maybe. But they just have a different kind of community to share it with, which is really cool. And it's cool that like they're able to do stuff like that, since not everyone has access to a boat.
Yeah, and if you think about like how much that would actually push you to be better, because then you're surrounded by people who actually want to be better at wake surfing and get better at wake surfing. So it is really cool, and you have like set coaches for each school, and it's really cool to see compared to like here in America, which is cool too, but like it's more a family thing and more of like just like a hangout thing. But it's just crazy to see the difference between here and Asia, where they're just so serious about it and like are so dedicated. It's really cool.
Yeah, and like even if they aren't trying to compete, I feel like they still have this like desire and drive to like get better at it, at what they're doing, just because they really enjoy doing that. I think it'd be cool, and I wish that we could see more people in America doing it like that, like not just wanting to go out and have fun and do whatever, but or even like compete, but just like, I don't know, have the desire to like learn more and like be good at it. Because it's, I don't know, I feel like I see a lot of people talk about how like, oh, that trick is so cool, or oh, did you see that guy, he like did an air over there or whatever. And like they seem like they really want to be able to do that thing, but they don't always necessarily know how to get to that or go for it, and so they don't.
For sure. And what's cool about wake surfing too is you can do it forever, you know? It's not like super hard on your body, and it's cool because I mean a lot of like athletes and people that have been interested in sports and getting better kind of lose that drive because of getting older and like pain, but wake surfing you can do forever. So that's super cool too.
Yeah, and an example is, you know, my dad, he's pretty sure, he told me this the other day, he's pretty sure he's the oldest competitive wake surfer.
Really?
Right now. Yeah.
That's awesome.
There might be someone older than him, but he made that claim the other day.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's still able to get out there and rip and have a good time. And even Kim, who I was giving lessons to.
Yeah.
I don't need to say her age, but she's the oldest female pro rider, and she's a mom, and she's still out there like shredding and like putting time and effort into like working towards that and being better.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's cool to see, and it's just like something that people can do. It's like a community thing. It's fun to do, and something that you can push yourself into.
Yes, sir. All right. You want to close this out?
Sure. Okay, well, that about does it for episode 12 or 11?
12.
12.
Yeah.
Episode 12. So this is episode 12, and yeah, it was fun to talk about different things about wake surfing. Jake and I are going to go to a competition tomorrow in Houston. Or no.
Yeah.
Houston? Lake
well,
Conroe?
It's like
Houston
30 minutes north of Houston.
Okay.
Yeah, but on Lake Conroe.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't done that one before. That's where Worlds was last year, right?
Yeah, you didn't go?
No, I didn't go.
Oh, shoot.
I didn't compete the last, 2 years, so.
Oh, yeah.
This is my first year back. We're getting back into it.
We're back into it. The only thing I'm not looking forward to at this competition is the water temperature.
Is it hot?
It's like 95 degrees.
Dang. That's
so I've
really
been told.
That's really hot.
Yeah.
Is it windy?
Last time it was kind of windy.
Yeah.
And last time there was some boat chop, but I heard they might have a little bit more control keeping like some boats out.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But you got anything else to say?
No, sir. Let's just ride well this weekend.
All right, let's do it. All right, Wake Surfology. Peace.
Peace.